Montrose police officers were arresting the occupants of a stolen vehicle.
Okay. All right, driver, keeping your hands outside of the vehicle. Open the door from the outside, slowly. Face away from me. Face away! Keep your hands up. Grab the back of your shirt. The back, nope, from the collar, There you go. Pull it up. There you go. And I want...
You know what? Like right there when he was saying grab the back of your shirt, if someone gives you an order to do that, you're going to have a tendency to go ahead and grab the back of your shirt, right? And that's the kind of thing that can actually get you moved off board just that quick. And they say, oh, you reach for a gun, bang, bang, bang. All 2, 3 of them that are standing there will now empty at least one mag in you each, if not more. Thankfully, that didn't happen in this case. We've seen it in other cases in the past. And we can count this off to basically, while he believes his orders to be lawful, a lawful command, without really being cognizant of what he's saying and giving very specific, detailed instructions, he just created a scenario just that quick that can lead to doing more harm than good. Thankfully, that didn't happen in this case, though. Let's keep going.
I want you to turn around in a circle until I tell you to stop. I walk back, straight back, in between the patrol vehicles.
Male's crippled.
Stop. You're not going to go down to your knees, sir. Just go ahead and stay standing, okay?
You gotta put your hands behind your head, on top of your head.
They clear the vehicle, securing the occupants in their cruisers.
Right, you got front door?
Yep.
Okay.
Looks clear.
I'm going to pop this.
The officers then call the vehicle's owner and search the contents.
You may have recovered that vehicle. Yeah, so we're trying to figure out, we're searching it right now.
The deputies have a bit of fun as they search through the car.
Yeah, the whole bag's mine now. Distribution stuff too. There's powder in that one.
Another fucking bag of rocks. It's literally a bag of rocks. That's the rocks in music. I like the rocks.
They're not even like quartz or anything, they're just regular like rocks.
During the search, they find an adult toy.
I'm so sorry. Okay, yeah, we can tow it to the M&H lot.
Alright.
And we can have it towed to the M&H lot, and then you can just give them a call, and then you can. It's under my truck.
Yeah, I really don't like to see this kind of thing when police officers are searching people's property. And rather than being quote unquote professional, they're getting like personal and childish, where you should be looking for weapons, drugs, things like that. You're not, right? You get involved with it to this extent, and it just becomes a ridiculous invasion of privacy. And even worse these days, where all of this is on public domain, this camera and all of it, what they have is public information. So here you are degrading people's whatever they have, you know what I mean? All kinds of us, if not all of us, got something going on that we probably shouldn't, or that we may be a bit uncomfortable with having publicly known. And that's okay to some extent, as long as it's within reason. In this particular case, the guy attaches, whatever adult toy that they had to the car, and it's just unnecessary. Like, why do that? You know what I mean? Like, what are you, 45 going on 17?
I have bags in my car.
At the bottom. Oh no, I found one too.
Oh no!
That is not as bad as the one you had.
Mine had a sticky ring on it. It was kind of cool. It's an easy storage.
Yeah.
Over the next 35 minutes, they keep their vehicles in the middle of the parking lot, all but blocking traffic to the A&W. A viewer pulled up to the fast food restaurant, intending to use the drive-thru. Frustrated by the obstruction, he shouted out his window.
Move your away, dude. You're interfering people from getting their cheeseburgers.
You got this black car right here?
No, it was the silver car that's in the that went through the drive-thru.
After yelling at the officers, he maneuvered his car through to place his order, but the insult was way too personal for Sergeant English. And while the driver was in the middle of placing his order, Sergeant English stepped between the car and the speaker, interfering with the man placing his order.
Quit yelling or you're going to get a citation, understood?
Yeah,
The lights are there. That means don't go by them, right? By the way, I'm ordering my food. Quiet. Order your food.
Yeah, see, this is that childish nonsense that, and this is a mentality that typically leads to fights in clubs and bars and things like that. Now, as a so-called officer of the law, someone yelling at you the way that the guy did, get out of the way. I wouldn't have used that profanity, but some people do, whatever. And you've been there sitting there half an hour blocking the drive-thru, playing around, violating these people's privacy in ways that are not related to the job description, you know, and you're totally oblivious to the smooth, free-flowing traffic, the smooth, free-flowing operation of society. It doesn't seem to be that that's your mode of operation. This officer here and many, and it looks like it's the beginning of a problem here, but let's see where this goes. So now, as he approached this guy here at the drive-thru, I do appreciate this guy's lack of regard for law enforcement, not law enforcement as a general entity, but lack of regard meaning I don't have to submit to you, you know, I should fear you, whatever you tell me, that's what I'm going to do, you're my Lord and Master. So I can appreciate not taking on that kind of attitude. I do think, though, when you're like that, you don't know what you're going to get. So the way he's talking to this officer is basically like, well, I'm your huckleberry, right? You want to go that route? Let's get ready to play. That's what it seems like he's getting ready to do. So let's see.
Samsung's listing.
So are you wanting the strangers in the combo or just by themselves?
The combo meal.
Are you wanting
Colorado 564 X-ray.
Sergeant went to go contact that guy because he told us to move our car. He said, move out of the way, you fucking dick.
That's what he said?
Yeah.
Sergeant English threatened the man with a ticket for yelling at the officers, conduct that is clearly protected by the First Amendment and case law, such as Houston v. Hill, which states, the First Amendment protects a significant amount of verbal criticism and challenge directed at police officers. And in Spence v. Washington, the court held that if absolute assurance of tranquility is required, we may as well forget about free speech. Under such a requirement, the only free speech would consist of platitudes. The driver continued with his order, collected his food, and circled back around the parking lot, intending to confront Sergeant English about the threats. At first, he couldn't spot the sergeant, and Officer Baca approached him instead.
What's the problem?
Okay. Now, while he may be right in the driver here in his desire to want to continue to escalate this and in his interaction with the police, personally, I would have let it go. You know what I mean? I would have moved on with my day. It's really not worth it. I'm going to pick my battles in this war of ours against injustice and oppression, live to fight another day, and just let this one go. He didn't. So let's see where this goes.
Us blocking the road. They said nobody can get to the drive-thru for a half an hour.
When did they say that?
I just came through the drive-thru.
Okay.
They said, "Oh, you're the first one. Our drive-thru's been closed because nobody can get through."
It hasn't been closed.
Yeah, well, because no one can get through.
It hasn't been closed, and you can.
That's what they
very
said.
well go through.
That's what they.
Yeah, you know, this guy here seems to be encompassing something called white moral authority, which is like, I have supreme say so. And white moral authority can be used for good or bad, or it can be a good or bad thing. I suppose it depends on the situation. But basically, he's coming along here trying to say, based on my moral authority as a basically owner of this society, right? Why are you guys doing things that don't make sense? And I'm going to let you know you're doing things that don't make sense. And you need to kind of adjust your behavior and act accordingly. Now, is he doing something wrong necessarily by saying anything that he said, even behaving in the way that he's behaving? Is he breaking any law or anything like that? No, he hasn't done anything until this point. Would I have behaved that way? Would some of you maybe have behaved in that way? Maybe not. But irrespective, he hasn't broken any law. He hasn't done anything wrong.
They said, so.
What's your name, man?
He's definitely he's on his G mode right now. I guess she asked what his name, and he told her, F you. So now, the police officers, this is what are we gonna do? We can't accept this, right? Laws are being broken. We're being spoke to poorly because of our inconsiderate conduct of business and commerce continuing in a capitalistic society. We're being spoken to crazy because we've disrupted the everyday services of people in this society, people in this community. We should do something about this. Is a mentality. It looks like they're getting ready to take all. Let's see where this goes.
He put me off, so I wouldn't talk to him. He said that they told him that the drive-thru was closed for the last 30 minutes because of us, but I said you can still go through. So he proceeds to say, "You put me off."
Yeah, I've dealt with enough officers to know. Like I could tell by the way this sergeant here is clicking his pen and twisting it in his hand. He's contemplating, okay, what level of escalation should we take this to? Because he flipped you off and he continued to behave irately, and we just can't have that. So he's already plotting his next moves. Let's see where this goes.
And
I'm gonna go stop him,
okay.
write him a ticket. If I can catch up to him.
Officer Baca hears the criticism and moves her cruiser out.
So he says, I'm going to go and stop him and write him a ticket. If we may all ask, sir, sergeant, whatever your name is, what crime did he commit? Flipping her off or telling her F you? Both of those things, neither one is a crime. You know what I mean? What I have done, and probably not in this scenario, there are definitely times where we should be telling the cops F you or flipping them off. No doubt. In this case, maybe he wanted his Long John Silver's really bad and he couldn't, or his A&W root beer or whatever. And, he's pretty pissed off about that, A lot of us do have fast food addictions, so who knows? But at the end of the day, though, that's not something you go and chase somebody down for, man. And he should know that.
Out of the center of the lane. Meanwhile, Sergeant English barrels out of the establishment's parking lot and chases the man down. After following him for a moment, Sergeant English initiates a traffic stop.
Let's listen to his probable cause for pulling him over. Let's see if he finds something.
You're gonna get a citation. I need your
For
driver's
what?
license.
For what? What is
You
my
be flipping
citation
people
for?
off.
Oh, yeah, that's a citation for what?
Identify yourself.
Oh, he's ready.
No, I'm not. But
Citizen
what am I
ready.
getting pulled over for?
Scott, Jamie Scott, something like that.
Huh?
Any weapons in
There you
there?
go, bud.
Thank you.
Fucking clown as shit.
That's why you're getting a ticket.
Oh, a ticket for what, dumbass?
Yeah, he's wild. Again, he's not
Several
doing
minutes
anything
later,
wrong.
Sergeant English
Criminally,
returns.
he's really agitating the process here.
Here, Mr. Smith, there's your driver's license back. Can I get a phone number for you?
Nope.
I didn't hear you.
Nope.
Nope. All right. So you get cited for disorderly conduct, obscene gesture, $20 fine. You have a court date of November 28th, 2024 at Montrose Municipal.
Disorderly conduct. Wow. Now, I have a problem with this because it ties up courts, systems, and people's lives unnecessarily. It really does. You can either pay the 120, or if you want to go to trial and do that whole thing, just the hassle of it is like, I don't know, I mean, a lot of us don't really have a whole day or half a day to sit in a courthouse, trying to sort out a disorderly conduct citation for flipping somebody off. So this sergeant, he basically, they're both a bit immature and kind of just reckless in this interaction for whatever reason. But the one who's expected to be the quote unquote adult here is the officer. And he seems to just he's feeding into the whole childlike mentality as he's going through this interaction. And his maturity level shows based on how he was interacting with that whole looking through those people's personal items. What should you be looking for when you're searching someone's car? You're looking for contraband. You're looking for weapons. You're looking for drugs. You know what I mean? Any place where bodies or anything can be stored. That's what you're looking for. You're not trying to go through people's mail. You're not going through people's personal items in that sense, and then making a recording, making fun of whatever people got going on.
Municipal court, if you don't wish to pay the fine, you want to plead not guilty. If you do want to pay the fine, it's $120 fine. Pay it before that November 28th date. So you just sign on the X saying you'll take care of it beforehand, or
No.
do it.
I'm not signing nothing.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
I'm not signing anything.
Okay. Refusing to sign.
Disorderly conduct.
Can't be going.
You're about an
flipping
idiot.
people off,
You're an
yelling
idiot.
at people. You're a dumbass. That's why you get a citation.
Yeah. It's a citation. I'll beat it when I go to court.
Okay. Now don't take your.
He probably will beat it, but again, like the hassle of it, my God. And then depending on where you live. Now, this is in Colorado, so this particular town may not have a whole lot going on, so they may be willing and ready to get you for anything, jaywalking, anything, right? Even though, again, he hasn't broken the law, he's kind of just, coming, coming. He's interpreting it in a way that I think is disingenuous because he just doesn't like the guy's attitude. I'll say that. I think as a law enforcement officer, you do have some discretion in certain matters, and he can potentially argue that based on his interpretation of the statute that this guy is acting disorderly. But if he were to say that, obviously he must because he's given a citation, I do think that's disingenuous and not really what he's after him for.
Sad. Inhibition.
Or there are a lot of officers that feel you guys shouldn't really do anything. We're holy and sacred, and you guys should just be respecting us, honoring us, borderline worshiping us, and that's it. So that could be his mentality here as well.
Home life out on somebody else, okay? Have a wonderful day. Sorry, English. That's why you're getting a ticket. Keep your mouth shut, please.
The driver, Josh, was cited for disorderly conduct, citing obscenity as the reason why he got the ticket. But profanity is not the same thing as obscenity.
Right.
And I have yet to find an officer in the United States who understands the difference. Profanity refers to curse words, while obscenity specifically involves depictions of adult conduct in an offensive way that has no serious value. The prosecutor figured that out pretty quickly, and just a couple weeks after the incident, Josh received a letter in the mail stating that his charge was dismissed. But in its place, he was now being charged with interfering with an officer. But the law in this case is clear as well, as it requires the use or threats of violence or force. But the worst part is that the only person on scene that even came close to violating any of the town's ordinances was Sergeant English, when he placed the suction cup enhanced adult toy on the exterior of the stolen vehicle for everyone to see. But of course, he would never be charged for that, and the Montrose police have been tight-lipped as to whether or not he's been reprimanded for the incident.
Isn't that crazy? Like, he actually was acting disorderly in that display, that obscene display. Yet he cites somebody. You know, this is kind of really the insanity of this 1984 society that we're in these days. It's kind of sad and sick. But let's see where we're going.
She's gonna go pull that guy over. Give him a ticket.
Oh, what?
Yeah, but he's also.
Yeah, this officer got it right. Salute to him, and we need more like that. But here's the thing: the guy, Sergeant English, has rank over these other people. So if he made the decision to go and tackle, well, that's his decision. Now, typically, these subordinate officers are not going to speak to that, given their culture that they have behind that quote-unquote thin blue line. But he got it right. It is his right. So salute to that officer.
He was like flipping me off and saying,
Flipping you off is not a crime.
you know, and then I was like, well, what's going on? He's like, well, they said the driver was closed because you asked that much.
Now, after this encounter, Josh had to find an attorney for the criminal side and then for the civil side. But it wasn't until my first video was sent to David Lane that he finally secured an attorney for both. David Lane is easily one of the best attorneys for civil rights issues in Colorado. So when he made an appearance, 9 News, Steve Leto, John Bryan, and all the greats ran stories about it. Within just a couple weeks of taking on the case, David Lane had filed a motion to dismiss. And by February, it was dismissed. Finally, in April of 2025, the city of Montrose paid Josh $35,000. That's a pretty expensive lesson for Sergeant English to learn that saying dickhead isn't against the law. And the worst part of it is, that guy's a supervisor. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below, and if you want your video shown on the channel.
Yeah, we'll stop there. That was the guy whose channel this came from was his name's Lackluster. So the city ended up paying him $35,000 because he sued. He had a civil lawsuit, and then he also had a criminal case. So for $120, this is where it gets a little toxic and sickening here, because it becomes a game that people can exploit, right? Because in truth, it would have been easier to just pay the citation financially, right? As far as your time, the amount of money that you're going to have to pay for a lawyer to represent you for a $120 ticket, it doesn't add up. So, okay, you got the 35 grand. If 50% of that, if not more, went to his legal fees. So for your inconvenience, you got, $5, $10, $15,000. I guess that's something. And it's also going to be good for that local community and for the rest of us at large, as you continue to push back on police overreach. So that much is good. I do like the fact that, he wasn't submissive and lowly to law enforcement. I just don't think that way of communicating up front, especially, is a good way to come in. You know, I don't like to come in hot, and I don't advise it, especially if you're non-white, right? Let's state that for the record. I do think that ethnicity here came into play, and had that been, let's say that was a black woman with purple hair and long nails, and she was screaming loud, and waving her hands around or something like that. That cop might have got mad enough to eventually pull her out of the car and detain her. You know what I mean? So I do think, depending on who you are, where you are, what you're doing, what your background is, all that needs to be considered before you step forward on a project like this. That particular guy, Jesse, that citizen, was able to pull that off. I don't recommend this kind of conduct for anyone and everyone. For those out there who understand their white moral authority that people can tap into in these United States, if you want to use that for good, we would appreciate it. For those who just want to push back against this police overreach, we'd appreciate that as well.